Welcome to Welcome to She's the Boss, which is our show all about women and women in business. And I'm very excited today. We've got the episode today with Lisa Sweeny from Business in Heels, and we're going to be talking all about why she made the leap from corporate to running her own business and what she's doing with her 160,000 female followers. So welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thanks, Jules. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here, and sorry about my little clanger at the opening. So tell me, why did you initially make the leap from working, well, tell me a little bit about your career, I should say.
Okay, so I think I had what many women would consider is the perfect job.
Yeah.
So I was paid to go out and have coffees with people and spend lots of money on corporate buying.
What's that role called? I want that role.
So I used to buy clothing for a living, and I trained through with large companies like Target Australia, and I then went up the corporate tree and managed teams of buyers, and we used to travel around the globe. It sounds really glamorous, but going around the world in 14 days is not so glamorous. And I think I worked out 72 hours was in an airport or in a plane or something.
Yucky.
You know, you get the picture. But I was paid to shop, so I used to buy clothing, and there's a lot of pressure to get it right, design and develop product and put it into store.
And how long were you in that role for? How long were you in the sort of corporate world?
So in that industry for about 25 years, and
right.
So I did everything from ladies apparel to men's apparel and toys and leisure, and I used to run licensing for Target. So I was dealing with all sorts of different people. I got to travel an awful lot.
Yeah.
So I would have been in the US maybe dealing with Disney or Hasbro, and they'd be going, "Where's Australia? Is that like the 53rd?" In fact, we even
They were not going, "We love Australia and Aussies."
We gate crashed one of Target US's meetings and told them we were the 53rd state, and they thought we were real. And so out of the corporate career, I guess along the way I managed lots of teams, and you know, I just got to the point where I felt my values had become very hollow.
Right.
And I just didn't think I was making much of a difference. And
that's kept really thinking, interesting. So it wasn't that you hated the job or that you were bored. It was more that I want to make a difference and I'm not really doing enough in this role.
There was that, and then there was, you know, multiple corporate changes and
family. Was that a consideration for flexibility or not really?
Not so much. So we'd always had. So obviously I had kids. I've got 2 kids, and my husband largely took the back seat and was happy to look after the kids whilst I continued. Great. So, you know,
I love a husband that does that.
At a family level, it worked well.
Yeah.
But also at a point, I just felt that, you know, I wasn't really achieving. The company's values weren't my values. They were all quite hollow.
Time to make a change.
Time to make a change.
Right. So what did you do?
So what did I do? So after a lot of pondering, I decided I'd find a business partner first that I wanted to do something with. I didn't want to do it entirely by myself.
Which actually I think is a very female thing. I'm the same. I always am looking for partners, and I've been bitten along the way by some of them, but it is something that I think we feel a comfort if we're doing it with someone.
Exactly. So very long-term friend, Joe Plummer, is my business partner, and we started day one at Target together as trainee buyers. So we've known each other for 25 years, had kids at similar times. So she's followed a similar career and had gone out and consulted earlier, and we said, well, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could have this business that would do something amazing, you know, if we could really take it global, you know, why not?
Yeah, no limits.
And along the way, we'd have a whole lot of fun doing it. So, you know, over quite a few Maduri sours and a few other conversations, we came up with some ideas, and we came across Business in Heels in its first iteration.
So what was Business in Heels when you came across it?
It was very much networking group, but it was very Sex in the City. So everyone was a business babe, and we're all very sassy. And
so all the heels part was a real part of the...
Yeah, and it was all... it was probably also a bit
superficial, but
it was a bit superficial. And so we really loved the name, and so we bought the business, and then we started really developing it for all women.
Right.
And, you know, very much around empowering and helping women get some clarity and focus and achieve. So that's where, and you know, that was 5 years ago.
I was going to say, tell everyone where it is now, because it really has grown. You've had a lot of fun, but you've done a lot of hard work over the years. So tell me, I mean, I've said to everyone that there are 160,000 women as part of the group, but what do you actually do? What is Business in Heels?
Yeah, so Business in Heels is really about empowering women, either professional or business, to achieve their goals, their success, whatever it is, their way.
Yeah.
And so we help people with mentoring, education, connections and marketing,
right,
to really get that clarity and focus and achieve.
And there are still lots of little small networking groups, aren't there? I mean, I think that's the thing I love about it, is that it's local groups all over the place, so you get to know
like-minded communities and letting them engage. And we do that hubbing around a branch director who's a real person on the ground who loves getting to know and meeting people.
Yeah.
And so they might have coffee dates. We're having events, learn from my mistakes. We have workshops and all sorts of fun things that we do, wine tastings, you know, amongst other things. Yeah.
So you touched on a few minutes ago learning from mistakes. Along the way, have there been any hiccups that you want to share with us?
Oh, look, numerous. I mean, gosh.
Is there one that you can think of that taught you a big lesson?
At a point early on, we had another business partner involved, and just we really, you know, so you can appreciate Joe and I have known each other for 25 years. The other person we thought would be really valuable in the business because they had particular skills. But along the way, we realised that their values weren't quite the same as ours, and so we all had to part ways. And
how did that go down? Because parting can be difficult and can go smoothly. Did you have a partnership agreement in place before that with an exit clause?
We did, and it did go reasonably smoothly. But it was more the emotional anxiety, you know, and you still have to separate it all. So, lesson learnt: if you're going to go into partnership with people, go wisely and with lots of clear.
I think I know that I had a business many years ago where I ended up exiting, and I was so glad that, even though at the time I thought this is so over the top, we had a written partnership agreement that said if anyone wants to leave, this is the process that we follow. And so when I did leave, and it wasn't always, you know, it wasn't always super friendly at that stage, because it can often get a bit difficult when people are trying to leave or you're trying to get rid of someone, but having that clear direction just makes such a difference at a time where it could descend into awfulness.
Yeah, and I think I witness, you know, I talk to lots of people all the time, and people get into business with other people without really thinking it through. You don't actually have to form partnerships initially.
No, that's a really good point.
You know, there's a million different ways you can start building collaborations and getting to work with people before you go into that.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that I learned that was a real moment for me was the idea that you could do profit share without them having to have actually equity in the business. You don't have to make them a partner and give them a percentage of your business. You can give them a percentage of any money that you make and say, we'll do that for 2 years, and if we still love each other at the end, then we'll start talking equity or something, which is something that I think a lot of people don't think of.
Yeah, and don't give away your equity for nothing, people. So along the way, we had different branch directors on the ground. We have about 15 on the ground around Australia. We're in UAE, Philippines.
Which is pretty cool. UAE. Yeah. How did you get there?
Well, again, it's networking, you know. So it was an Australian girl that set it up originally.
Right.
And so originally Business in Heels was more around a franchise model, and then we went away from that because we just felt that
it would be better if you could kind of manage all of it.
Yeah, and so we've got, as I said, we've got 15 branch directors on the ground. We run lots of engaged Facebook groups where people can have conversations all the time. We've obviously got a lot of people on our database. We have a podcast which goes out regularly.
And blogs.
Yep, and we've got about 60,000 followers to the podcast. We have lots of videos and other things that we put out. So a lot of those.
And you've got social media posts for each of the social media groups for each of the small groups, as well as the big overall. So you're managing. How many Facebook pages are you managing?
Well, we've got about 50 groups.
Wow,
so
50.
Yeah, and so we love creating content and putting out useful information.
And you're really good at it. And of course it helps that you've got so many members in some ways, because you can always get them to kind of help you with the content, I guess, if need be. But what is it like trying to manage that many groups? Or is that something that's come naturally to you because of your corporate career? But I mean, to me, the idea of managing 50 different groups of people is somewhat overwhelming.
Yeah, so manage at a distance. So,
Right.
We have people in play, which is where the branch directors come in. And in some, in a lot of groups, we've got maybe up to 8 people with different voices adding value into the groups. So it's about, allowing people that opportunity.
Right.
So that's a little bit about how the Facebook groups work. And then on our website, we've got things like a lot of free education to try and help take women from being unconsciously incompetent, as we know we all are when we start doing business. It's
to being consciously competent as opposed to consciously incompetent, I guess.
Exactly. So that means the question starts, doesn't mean you're an expert at it. And the interesting thing is, as a corporate woman, I would have said I'm very professional, I know exactly what I'm doing, right? But when it came to legal stuff or social media or actually doing the accounts, you're not an expert. So one of the things that great learning, get as many experts around you that you can outsource some of that stuff to, because the time invested in learning it all is such a waste of time.
And also because, if you have an expert that knows what they're doing, they're always going to do a better job than you, even if you have taught yourself in some ways. Do you know what I mean? I guess you balance off the budget that you've got compared to how many experts you can employ. But I agree with you that trying to do things yourself and muddle through when it comes to legal stuff, when it comes through to accounting stuff, that's stuff that can't really be moved. Marketing, I guess, is a little bit more malleable, which is kind of where my area of interest is. But
I think everybody who runs a business has got to have some key tap into how does the money come in. So you either have to be great at selling or marketing, or you have to be great at handling the money, because otherwise you really don't have the basis of what your business model is.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you see time and time again, that somebody who's got a real passion for something, and maybe a terrific idea, goes and sets it up and thinks that because they know what they're doing in one aspect of the business, that it's going to play out across the whole business, and it just doesn't.
No, not at all. So interesting thing for corporate women coming out. So in corporate environments, it's catch and kill your own. There's less.
What does that mean?
Well, there's less jobs as you get to the pointy end. There's a lot of competition for the jobs.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even today, I can tell you, and I deal with a lot of corporate women, there's still not an environment of helping one another up.
Which
is why we still only have 3% women CEOs and 19% in the middle. So women are not taught in that environment to collaborate, because if you share your stuff, then someone's just as likely to steal it and run away with it. So
that's a really
when you
point.
Step out into running your own business, you need to accept you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of those women are not used to asking for help. But it's okay, everybody needs it.
Yes, that's a really good point. That is a really good point, because I think if you're going to make the leap, which I am a huge fan of people doing, and I know you are as well. I mean, I don't like to think of anybody miserable in a full-time job when they could actually be controlling their own life. And as much as you say get the experts in and don't do it yourself, there is an element, particularly if you're going to have an online business, where you can actually just get started with very little capital. Correct. And just get it all moving and then get those experts in later. But you're right, I mean, nobody is an expert at everything, and you shouldn't try and be, because otherwise you end up with that jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing, where things will start falling through between the cracks.
Well, and if you're coming out of corporate like I did, you could set yourself up so much better. So you could set the side hustle up, you could actually get all the business things in place, you could get your banking and all sorts of things in place while you've still got another good income.
Yeah, great
and
idea.
Then it's a great opportunity to step into it. But you do need to accept that ultimately small business needs to collaborate with lots of other people to be successful.
Yeah.
And you need to have those partnership agreements and try and find those people who are like-minded and not try and do it all yourself.
And that must be such a huge contrast, because if you're so used to holding everything close to your chest and not letting anyone get in because they might chip away and actually, take your next role away from you or whatever, then to come outside into because I have almost exclusively worked for myself, and I've almost exclusively worked with small business owners. And it's really interesting that you have that perspective, because I always say, well, women do different business differently. And I really do feel that there is a huge support network, and that you only need to go on some of the social media sites to see women sort of helping other women and leading them up. But there is a flip side to that completely, isn't there?
Yeah, so and a lot of these women won't ask, right. and they have the expectation, because I'm an expert at what I do, that people will expect me to be an expert at everything.
Yes, that's right.
So they have, a lot of their own worst enemy, right? So they're busy telling themselves, well, I'm a professional, I'm an expert.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I get the same thing, because obviously I try and position myself as being an expert in PR, and then the next thing is I feel like I want to go and learn something, and it's like, do you want to go into a class and show that kind of vulnerability? Look, I don't really know this area, and yes, I am expert at that, but it doesn't, without diluting what your message is and diluting your expertise, I guess. So
yeah, and I think, look, today people want to deal with people that are authentic.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be an expert at everything. So
and certainly you're much better off being honest about it than trying to fudge it and make out that you do know what you're talking about and get caught out the hard way.
Exactly. I'm fine. It's all fine. So anyway, tips for, some of those learnings along the way. And I guess we grew and have grown a lot through partnerships. And so, aligning ourselves with people that
Well, I was going to say, so how do people leverage partnerships? And what does a partnership mean? If you're a small business owner, talk to me about what is a partnership and how can you leverage them to...
Well, let's take us as an example.
Okay,
so,
great.
Jules, I've known you for 3 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe 4 years. So Jules first came along and she was doing some just amazing training. And so we had Jules to speak at a number of our events.
Yes.
And along the way, she was able to introduce people to the world of PR. And so for some people, it's exactly what they need in their business to get their message out. And
also because I know what Businesses in Heels does, then when I'm out talking to other people who are saying, I want to tap into, I really need to find more women, or I'm trying to get out to women, I go, well, then go to Business in Heels, because they'll be able to help you and they're up for partnerships. So
exactly. And so then Handle Your Own PR's got this great platform which allows people to get to the right journalist. And so it helps you narrow down your field and what you should be doing. Yeah. So again, it's a great way for me to help people, so this has been...
So we're scratching each other's backs.
Exactly. But I don't have the PR expertise.
No,
but you do.
And I don't have a network of 160,000 women.
Exactly. And I have a whole lot of them that need PR. So see, great partnership. So if you can find people that are like-minded and have good values,
and that can be even really small things. I mean, if you're a hairdresser and in a small town, you could get the hairdresser, the Airbnb, and the nail salon to all put together a package. You can partnership in that way, and then go out and say who'd like to win this prize, or we've got special packages if you want to come out to this little town. You can
bring in makeup, photographer. And suddenly you've got, girls...
A photo shoot at the same time.
Yeah, girls' weekend, happy memories, all that stuff. So
no, I think that's really good. So along the way, are there any sort of particular tips or experiences that you've had that you've learned from? Can you think of something in particular that happened that you kind of went, wow, that's something that I hadn't really thought of before then?
Look, along the way, we've done a lot of trial and error. So one of the things about being a good buyer is that you've got to constantly try and fail regularly, otherwise you're not trying hard enough. So taking that mentality into Business in Heels, we've tried lots of different things on social media, which some have worked, some have failed, and we've continued to morph out around that. But at a point in time we were thinking about investment. Do we expand? Do we get other people in? And we spent probably, about 2 or 3 months, and this was a real drag on our time, about considering bringing some other people in to buy into the business. So we probably hadn't thought it through well enough. Exactly what do we want out of it?
Which I think is very common. I mean, I know that I think along those lines as well. I think it'd be really nice to have a big wad of money, but I wouldn't want someone to kick me out of my own business.
That's right.
And those sorts of things.
And
that
so
can happen.
I went off and did a whole lot of investigation and talked to a whole lot of VCs and people like that who were busy telling me how they actually take over a whole lot of businesses along the way, because a lot of founders drop the ball once they get money.
Which is kind of
Yeah,
I can understand.
exactly, and how different pitches work and all sorts of things. So we actually spent, about 2 months, and we were away, and oh gosh, it was just really fascinating, just the people dynamic, and it became a real drag. So we just went, obviously not right for us, and we end up walking away. But as a result of that, we've now got an advisory board in play.
Right.
And so we went, okay, so there's certain skill gaps that we have.
Well, firstly, let's just take a step back for anyone who doesn't know. What's an advisory board? So
advisory board is where you appoint a board of people, but it's not a legal board as such.
And it's kind of a voluntary,
it's unpaid, a voluntary
can
thing.
You come and help me and offer me advice kind
of. Yeah, and quite often it will be done as a mixture of possibly for equity or for, they will get some payment out of it.
Okay.
Ultimately, if they're good.
Yep.
Well, there's a gamut, so it can go from free to getting paid.
Yep.
Or being paid in shares or whatever.
Yeah.
Depends on the people. So some people do it and they just get people in for a period. Other people do it as a board with a project in mind to actually facilitate things.
Right. So how is yours an ongoing sort of
Ours
board?
Is ongoing.
And how frequently do you talk with your advisory board?
So probably every month, every couple of months. But we've deliberately got people in play on the board that have skills that we don't.
Right.
And so I guess.
And do you speak with them one-on-one, or you always speak as a board?
No, mixture.
Okay.
So each one has its own speciality, and so if we're doing a particular project, we might be looking at finance, I'll go talk to the person who's an expert at finance. Or if we're talking about, small business and sales, and anyway, just it's really interesting. So there's lots of different ways you can get knowledge and experience into your business.
Yeah.
And as you grow a business, you obviously go through different stages of a business, and making sure you've got the right support as you go along through each one of the different phases is important.
Yeah. And I don't think you can ever really underestimate the value of having advisors, really, because without them, you just don't know where to turn, or you're going to have to pay for a lot of money to get a proper professional. When I say proper professional, but there are people who would be on an advisory board that'll give you legal advice that you don't end up having to pay $2,000 or $3,000 to go and ask them a couple of questions, and then they will tell you whether you need to go and employ a proper accountant or whatever it might be, lawyer.
Yes, and so similarly, we've started a whole lot of mentoring programs, which again we're helping those people facilitate getting their businesses to another stage. So it might be in developing a business plan. We're helping someone take their business and roll it out into different states.
Yeah.
We're helping other businesses maybe form something online / internationally. So there's lots of different ways you can do things, and we've got a really big pool of mentors that we can pull on.
Oh yeah, cool. So now, just putting on your entrepreneurial hat, because now you've done it once, you can't resist, I can tell. And you were telling me earlier that you've just started a new brand that you've just launched like a couple of months ago. So tell us about that.
Okay, yes.
And I believe you might have a sample.
Yes. So let me whip out something.
Grab my sample.
Something we prepared earlier. So given that I'm somebody that likes shopping,
yes,
and developing product, just really frustrated by black computer bags, bags without straps. So this bag this brand's called Made for Me. It's
Made for Me, with a 4 as the number, as the 4. Yep.
Correct. And so the idea is it's total leather goods. You develop them yourself. There's X amount of
customised.
Fully customised.
Because what did you say to me? How many different options are there?
2,500.
That's not bad, is it? So it's not going to be like Target, for instance, where you kind of go, I don't want to go to that barbecue because someone might be wearing my outfit.
Exactly.
No one will have this.
Exactly. So you can develop it yourself. Pick the leathers, pick your zip colours, pick your strap colours.
I mean, I just absolutely love that. But I also think to have a laptop bag, as I said to you earlier, that has a strap. Where's that been? Why hasn't there been more of those going on? There's hardly any of them.
And so we've got laptops different sizes, iPads, as well as funky little glam bags and stuff. So somebody grabbed one the other day. They had to have it for the Elton John concert, so in the gold, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. But it's just two-tone hides and things, and you can add initials. And we've ended up doing now some corporate bags out of it. But it's the idea that you can personalise something, and for ladies running a business, it's a great talking point. point.
Yeah, that's true, because I mean, you're walking in with something where people will notice it straight away. And that is not all. You've been keeping going. So there was something else that you were telling me about as well. What's that?
Yeah, so clearly frustrated buyers. So the other business is called Cover Me Active, and we recognise...
Also new, sorry. Let me
also new. We recognise that there's a whole lot of people that aren't Lorna Jane hard-bodied Nike, Adidas, Reebok people, and struggle to find really cool activewear that they can wear around. So we developed this range for sizes 12 to 22.
Yeah.
The tops are longer, and they're in this beautiful heavyweight, just buttery soft rayon.
Right.
And they look great.
It's so funny the way you talk about that material. I wouldn't even know what rayon was, but I love it that it's buttery soft and good quality.
When you wear it, you just feel like you're just really wrapped up in it snugly.
Okay.
And then the leggings are all high-waisted and they're squat-proof, so no matter what, they're not dropping down. So you can lean into the car, you can drop things, you can pick them up and not feel like you're constantly pulling things up and down.
You don't have the only option is things that are so skin tight you're going to look like I don't know what, with all your lumps and bumps showing.
Exactly.
I mean, I really relate to it's nice to have comfortable stuff and stuff you can move around in, but ideally not something that's showing off every little flaw in your body.
Well, and the interesting thing is, so Lisa, my business partner in this particular business, we both had a long-term background in clothing, and so today, even now, most of the stores are working on a female shape from the 60s. Right, and we're not the same, you know.
No.
And it just doesn't allow...
And the 60s, I mean, if we all think about our mothers and grandmothers who were around in the 60s, they are not the same. I mean, for a start, they're about 4 or 5 inches shorter, or most of them are in my family.
Yeah, but they had more defined waists, so it's interesting.
More the sort of hourglass.
Yeah.
Right, because whereas we've got that kind of more athletic build that we idolise, I guess, now.
And when people put on weight, they don't put it on consistently, and things don't get longer, right? Which is, and so most of the stores...
In fact, as you put on weight, things get shorter, but anyway.
Yeah, so as you look in a lot of the stores, they grade up to a size, you know, the sizes run up to an 18, then there's a different pattern for the other one. So we've actually standardised the fits, so they actually fit you where you need it.
Right, I'm really looking forward to seeing those. And so just for anybody who might be interested particularly in that bag, because I'm going to have to go and get one as well, tell me, where are people able to find them?
Yeah, so if you just go to www.madeforme.com.au,
that gets you the bags, and then and the activewear is called
Cover Me Active. So Cover Me Active. So
.com.au. And then last but not least, because while we're on a roll, we might as well go through all your businesses. Tell people about Business in Heels, where they can find it.
So it's www.businessinheels.com.
And you would be able, if you go on the website, to find a chapter close to you if you wanted to go and do the in-person networking.
And there's
you're doing online mentoring, online networking as well?
Yep.
Yeah, because I think I saw an email from you a while ago that said you were doing online networking, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, and look, people have got a particular concern, conversation they just want to have, call up. We've got, lots of people to chat with, and, sometimes it's great to hear people's ideas. I love it.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like starting the conversation and then seeing all the ideas that come out of it. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic to have you here. And I've been really, really interested, and I hope you have all found it very interesting learning about Business in Heels and Cover Me Active and Made for Me. Made for me, made for you. Made for me.
It's made for you.
So I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've learned some great tips, Jules. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the show next time.
This is Ticker, your new source for news.